Hey everybody, welcome back to My Hero Academia. Today, oops, hold on. Headset got unplugged here. I'm assuming you guys can still hear me though. My Hero Academia, episode 106 and chapter 321 and an Endeavor special. By the way, this is the Amateur Otaku podcast. Joining me as always is my great co-host, Isaac Wolf, the Mad Punisher. How you doing, Isaac?
I'm doing good. Just tired as always. It's a lot going on here in Sweden, so
I bet.
yeah.
With COVID going on around here and everything you have going on in your personal life, I just appreciate you being able to take time out of your Sunday to record these with me. I don't feel like I expressed that enough. It's really a joy doing this with you and Leo, who couldn't make it for this one. But it's a highlight of my week every week.
Same.
So, guys, we've got a stacked lineup today. We've got the My Hero Academia episode and an Endeavor spinoff, like one shot that we're going to review. Anime only, so you can stay for that one. We'll cover that one soon. It ties into the movie that's going to come out in Japan this week, actually, August 6th, I believe it hits theaters. So that'll be fun
You know more than me about that release date, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, our Japanese audience, let us know your thoughts on the movie if you're listening to this when you guys see it, because it is not going to be here in the States and it's not going to be in Sweden.
I mean, analytics says that we have some folks from Japan listening to this. So.
Oh, well, yeah. Give us your reviews in the comments or on social media. That'll be fun. So let's get into this episode, though, Isaac. Episode 106, or episode, is it 17, I believe, of season 5? The Unforgiven. This picks up after last week's, obviously, with the whole Todoroki drama. And basically, this villain named Ending wants to attack Endeavor. He tracks him to his house. He kidnaps Natsuo. And this is just worst case scenario for this family right now. They already had the worst dinner party of all time. And, it's just a mess. One thing I loved about this episode, and I've said this with you and Leo before, pacing. Pacing has always been a problem when it came to this season of My Hero Academia. Things would drag on. There'd be a million flashbacks. It would just be a slog to get through. This episode, Isaac, I don't know if you felt the change in the pace, but this one they adapted 3 manga chapters. Last week they only adapted 2, which is why it felt terrible. And this one they adapted chapter 250, 251, and 252. And it felt more organic. It felt right? It was properly paced, executed. Story beats had time to breathe. It didn't get dragged around. I love this episode of My Hero Academia, and I just want your overall thoughts on this one.
First off, like I said earlier, even though it's filled with flashback, I actually liked that previous episode, considering it went into the Todoroki family and all that a lot. And as I mentioned before, the Todorokis is one of my favorite parts of the series. If that's weird or not, I don't know, but I just find their family dynamic interesting and all. But I think you're absolutely right. The pacing in this, I argue that this episode has the best pacing in the entire season, and it shows, honestly.
Yeah, 100%, because the strongest episodes of the season all adapted around 2.5 or 3 chapters. And that's because there were flashbacks in this episode. Flashbacks aren't necessarily the problem. It's the over relying on flashbacks, like in last week's episode, that kind of irritate me. Flashbacks are fine, and they worked really well in this episode. I love the entire thing going on with Ending. I love even the smaller moments of Bakugo gloating about how they were able to stop that villain at the most inopportune time. It's like Endeavor does not care about this right now, Kachan, and Bakugo just doesn't understand. He wanted room to gloat so bad.
He clearly is meant to be the what's it called, the comedic relief in this arc. That's for sure.
That's but I kind of like that. We kind of flipped the team dynamic on its head, where you have this overly dramatic Todoroki family, and we just sort of throw Deku and Bakugo in the middle of it. And it's just so interesting seeing how they react. Deku is kind of quiet. He notices how awkward it is, and he's doing his best to like encourage his friend Shoto. And Bakugo is just he's Bakugo. He's mad all the time about it, and he wants to get that tofu recipe though. That's one thing. Yeah. That's again the comedic timing on him is hilarious in this episode.
Yes, he is. Yeah, I can be annoyed sometimes about his yelling, but this time it certainly made it work and all that jazz.
Yeah. I personally love how they're handling this Todoroki arc, you know, as the Todoroki's therapist. I'm really enjoying how they're handling it, like how Natsuo still doesn't forgive Endeavor, or how even Endeavor is thinking to himself, if I save Natsuo, he's going to feel indebted to me, and that's going to strain their relationship even more, right? Like that's something that's really interesting that he took into account. And I'm right there with you. This is some of the most well-written parts of My Hero Academia.
I mean, we also need to remember he was the one that was closest to what's the guy's name that always gets the wrong hair in the manga?
Toya. Yeah, the oldest son, Toya.
Yeah, he was the one that was closest to Toja, so.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing how they handle that too.
Yeah, because it makes sense, particularly for him, why he hates Endeavor so much, and he was the one closest to Toja.
Mm-hmm. And I even love the detail of like Fuyumi saying she also feels like Natsuo, but she's willing to move past it just to get her family back. And like it's really interesting seeing that dynamic from all three of the kids, and even Endeavor himself wanting to atone and wanting to get their mother back into their lives and out of that hospital. It's just so good, man. I love this arc so much.
Yeah, and it's the whole thing with, and just the whole thing. But thank you for being Shoto's friend, and just it's right in the feels.
Right, because again, that's where the flashbacks help you, because you instantly remember Todoroki was kind of a loner, and then that sports festival happened, and then Deku is yelling at him, "It's your work, not his," blah blah blah, and it's like that helped Shoto grow, because like I don't even know if you remember in season 1, he just froze half of his body just so he didn't have his fire side exposed, which was really dramatic in hindsight. But Deku is really helping all of them grow, honestly. And it's just right in the feels. It's so strong, and I love every second of it.
I mean, even Kachan has been less angry towards each season because of Deku arguably.
I mean, it took him about 100 episodes to mellow out, but he got there. You know, by anime standards, that's not too bad.
No. It's pretty good for anime standards.
It's not like Shippuden.
Oh, I have a soft spot for Naruto, but pacing is the biggest problem for if anything when it comes to that series, because something called filler, but that's besides the point. What is it with us and mentioning Naruto with this series? But anyway.
That was an honor of Leo who couldn't make it today. So he's the one who usually starts the Naruto talk.
Yeah,
But
good point.
in all seriousness, I love this episode. There's not much more I can really add because it just kind of picks up on the themes from last week's episode. So I think we've touched on everything. I did think Ending's quirk has to be the dumbest we've seen yet. He controls the white lines on the street. What kind of quirk is that?
It's even more. People joke about how pointless invincibility is as a quirk. Talk about the pointless quirk here. Just if you're on the sea, if you're in a warehouse or something, that you are essentially just a human being, normal human being, and okay. It would
Yeah.
have been more practical if he was sort of like, let us say, called the mummy and could control enormous amount of bandages, as if the scarf of Eraserhead was an entire Kirk. If you know what I
Kind
mean.
of like Ragman, right? In DC Comics. Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been
That
much more threatening if it had been like that.
every once in a while, I feel like Horikoshi just wants to see how far he could take things. Like, remember a little while ago, I think it was like the beginning of the season, the guy's quirk is the more shame he feels, the more powerful he gets. And it's just like, sure, that makes sense.
It's like
Okay.
it's like DC Comics and just what is the lamest power we can character we can do? I know, Polka Dot Man or Arm Fall Off Boy.
Arm
Uh,
Fall Off Boy is the greatest character ever made, man. That Matter
uh,
Eater lad, perfect.
and no, I haven't seen his Suicide Squad. I'm just thought about it because of infamous DC Comics characters of the year, the one you mentioned. But anyway, shall we go
So,
to the one shot?
yeah. So we're gonna go, guys. That's it for the anime episode. We did have a spin-off Endeavor manga chapter that you guys might be interested in. It ties directly into My Hero Academia Hero's Mission, coming to a theater eventually near you, most likely. But it comes on Japan again, like we said, this coming week, this Friday. So in this chapter, it's set during the Endeavor Agency arc, which is where the anime is right now. So all that reshuffling, all that moving around is finally paying off. And this chapter, it's on Viz, wherever you can read My Hero Academia. You're going to find that chapter there, by the way. But yeah, Endeavor's Mission is the title. It's written by Yoko Akiyama. And Yoko's written the Team Up Missions books and the other movie tie-in books. He's an assistant of Horikoshi. So it's not Horikoshi who wrote this, but it's somebody who's had experience writing My Hero Academia before. This book, it's basically just the trio of Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki. They're with Endeavor, and we meet these agents. Bakugo calls them the Men in Black, right? From the World Heroes Association. Basically, they're trying to get recruits for this global mission, this special ops mission. And Endeavor said that they can go with him if they're able to one strike on him, like one blow. I think they have like a 5-minute timer to hit Endeavor, something like that.
I'm gonna check.
Yeah. It's very reminiscent to when Night Eye told Deku he has to steal the stamp and stamp his letter. It's basically that same setup, except it's Endeavor versus Class A's Big Three. So Isaac, I'm just gonna throw it over to you, and you can just say what your thoughts were on this one because it's just a short one shot. What did you think of this spinoff comic, this Endeavor's Mission?
Honestly, I liked it for what it was, but to some extent, it felt like I'm not talking about the whole special mission part, but him sparring with Shoto, Bakugo, and Deku feels like something that could have fit in a official manga canon, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of felt a little weird. It feels, especially reading it right after this arc that's about to wrap up is pretty much over now. Reading it felt like that could have been the filler episode instead of the the girls episode, like 2 episodes back, Silky one. It felt like that could have been the filler episode of them training to go on this mission, and then it just ends with "to be continued" in My Hero Academia movie 3.
Yeah. I mean,
but
no offense to the filler arc, but I do wonder if they really wanted to focus on the girls for giving them showing off how cool they are, or they just wanted to save an animation budget with that episode.
I mean, I appreciate every chance we get to develop the female characters in these shonen, so I'll take it gladly. Especially after last season.
Me too, don't get me wrong, but considering a certain element of that episode, you beg to question certain choices.
Yeah, like how they randomly go to the beach. That makes sense, sure.
Yeah, but this would have been, in terms of plot, a much more fitting filler episode. I feel, considering especially considering, let's face it, there is much more people that watches the anime than reading the manga. So why make a one shot that ties into the movie something for the manga?
That's one thing that was weird. Yeah. That's one thing that was weird about last week's episode is it had that after credit scene to the villain of the third movie. Don't know his name yet, but it had that kind of setup, and it's like, one, the movie doesn't come out for 2 weeks, so it's not even a direct tie-in. But two, it kind of just happened, but there was no stinger that said like to be continued or watch My Hero Academia's movie. So it's like, how would anybody even know how to follow that up?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's how I feel about that.
But don't get me wrong, the content overall is good, and so it just like, why is this here as a manga special short and not filler episode at worst, considering it's going to focus on a movie and not something they give us in the manga. So just okay.
Yeah, it's a little strange.
Speculation.
So,
speculation when it comes to the movie. They were going to help out overseas.
Mm-hmm.
It said that his father Deku's father is working overseas, and like we know, like you said before, we know that Horikoshi likes to have the manga and anime, even though they don't have the same art, to be kind of sync with each other.
Mm-hmm.
What are the odds that they are going to introduce Deku's dad in this movie to then having him being in the manga in the next few chapters? Because he has said that he was going to introduce we were gonna to meet Deku's dad soon enough. He has said that a while back.
It depends. The chances are pretty good when you put it that way. I like where your head's at there. The thing is, again, this movie is taking place during the Endeavor Agency arc, I think, and that's still like 3 or 4 arcs behind current manga canon. So I don't know if the movie's supposed to be canon. Like, do we want to introduce Deku's father there, or would it be more impactful to have him show up in what's going on in the manga now? And we're not going to spoil the manga because this is still an anime discussion.
Yeah.
But, you know, would it be more impactful if he showed up in chapter 330 or whatever, you know, pretty soon, or in this movie that might not even be canon?
In 2018, Horikoshi stated during San Diego Comic-Con that Deku's father will be revealed in the future. This will be a great news for the fans when Midoriya's father had where Midoriya's father had been. It's going to be interesting to see Midoriya's dynamic with his father if they do meet. Am I just okay? Whatever. And then we know that he is Endeavor's secret love child. That he didn't care about due to him not having a Kirk.
I feel like Endeavor would have acknowledged, he would have mentioned that by now with his whole redemption arc thing going on. If Deku was his child.
I was just joking. But him being All Might's child, considering and secretly, even at this point, that I couldn't. Honestly, considering both were Kirkless, I mean, it could. This is just that's just okay.
No.
No.
That's a pass for me. Like, All Might's already his father figure. We don't have to go that extra step. Also, his dad is still alive.
Good point. But it just I was just spitballing, thinking about being introduced to his dad, because even though Goku, you get even being introduced to Goku's dad, and so why you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's in the realm of possibility. I'll give you that. It's in the realm of possibility that they will show us Deku's father. I just don't think it's really likely. You know.
Yeah. he should, okay, but he should be coming soon, I suppose. I'm considering this is supposedly the. Okay, we take that later.
Anime onlys. That's it for you guys this week. There's no My Hero Academia airing next week due to the Olympics, and probably the movie's not helping that case either. So we will catch you in a couple of weeks. We're going to get into manga spoilers now. Go Beyond, Plus Ultra.
Plus Ultra.
So chapter 321. Also, you were mentioning seeing Deku's father.
I was considering this is supposedly one of the last, if not the last, arc. Shouldn't he be introduced soon?
The thing is, we don't know how much more My Hero we have, honestly, because they said it's the last act, not the last arc. So that, like, for example, going back to Naruto, the last act of Naruto is the Great Ninja War. But keep in mind how long that war was. You know what I mean?
Good point. It felt like a manga in of itself.
Right, exactly. Like the war arc in Naruto took up a third of Shippuden, just alone. And so I'm not saying My Hero is going to be that long. It might be the last arc, but considering it said the last act, we can still have another year and a half, honestly, or even 2 years of My Hero Academia. So I'm not going to say like in the next 10, 15 chapters we have to see his father. But yeah, compared to the rest of the series, it's going to be relatively soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
anyway,
we're in chapter 321 though. From Class A to One for All. And Isaac, I love this chapter so much. I'm scrolling through it right now. First of all, we have our final color page, and it looks like Class A is building like this All Might mech, which is just unbelievably cute. Don't know what time period this is taking place in though, because Deku's happy and Aizawa has both of his legs. But great splash page. The book starts off with Endeavor arriving to the scene, and he's taking the villain, the dictator, that Deku and Bakugo just kind of destroyed a couple of chapters ago. But we see Kirishima and Aoyama, two more of Deku's closer friends, longing to help him, but they just can't keep up anymore. Deku's just way too fast because he's using 45%. He's using Fajin, he's using Black Whip, and all this other stuff. What I love about this is we see Todoroki pleading with Midoriya to come back to UA. And one of my favorite parts is Todoroki is using logic to appeal to Midoriya, whereas everybody else was using feeling. He's saying, don't you think this is part of All for One's plan? And if you want to protect everybody, shouldn't you stay at UA and protect what's important to you? We can help you, blah, blah, blah. But one of the worst parts is just this one. I don't even know if everybody else will feel this way, but this one panel here. It just says, your turn, your turn. Now it's your turn. And that's what's haunting Deku. And we mentioned that like 3 weeks ago when All for One said it. It's Deku's stuck in this conflict of One for All and All for One, and he can't escape. It's what consumed Nana Shimura. It's what consumed All Might. And now, yeah, it is Deku's turn to deal with the torture of being the user of One for All. We later see Mineta, Asui, Bakugo, Ida, Uraraka, Deku's closest friends, trying to get to him. And I love the parallel, Isaac, of this is basically what happened when they saved Bakugo, right? Ida reaches his hand out and says, meddling when you don't need to is the essence of being a hero, which is what Deku tells Ida when he saves him from Stain. This broke me, man. Oh, it's so good.
I just wish it was a bit longer. Because it's one of the shorter chapters.
It's short, but it's very dialogue heavy. Which is probably why it's shorter. Because we even have Ashio working with them, and it's literally the same move. They power up a ramp of ice to grab Deku in midair. It's the exact same play, and there's no flashback. They're not show like Horikoshi. Even in his writing, he adds flashbacks. I like how they felt the need to not flashback to it, because at this point, you just instinctively know what's happening here, especially when Ida says what he says to Deku. And I love how Ida hasn't had that much of a role in this story since the Stain arc, but I'm glad it's finally coming into play now.
And just the fact that you see Deku is starting crying when he see that and all, and it hits right in the feel.
Yep, it does.
Yes.
It's
and even Bakugo admitted that he wanted to talk to him, but so it should be interesting if he wants to say tell him that he helped him or something. If even Bakugo admits it.
You helped me be less of an asshole, you damn nerd. Hey,
Yeah,
that's all he can really
could be.
say.
It is,
But
it will be interesting to see if how he if there is something that could break him emotionally. It's just the speech that Ida gave him. It's the whole because giving help that's not asked for is what makes the hero. I think that will just break him and just I can't continue, so to speak.
Yep. Also, he just kind of brushes by Uraraka, which is hilarious. That became nothing. One thing that really spoke to me is there's this moment Minetta's talking about how Deku's quirk isn't what made him cool, them working together during that USJ attack way back during season 1 of the anime is what got him that respect for Deku and how they were able to fight through it together. And then Deku just brushes by and says, "Sorry, Mineta, that old me is gone." Which is the first time I feel like Deku's acknowledged that he's changed. You know he's been acting different, but like this is the first time he's actually acknowledged that he's not that same kid that we fell in love with in those first couple of arcs. That he's completely a different person at this point.
Yeah. It's just you're seeing how they just manage like you said, it's going through here and you see them cooperative with each other so much that they legit manage to catch him in the end. Anyway, it's just because sometimes I don't know if I said it last week, but sure it was a bit complicated with the in the instruction how to catch him and all that. Yes, sometimes in order to have someone to stop is more often the easier way, and that's just a simple conversation or a hug, if that makes any sense. Which I wouldn't be so surprised if it was a 1 or 2 panels shorter that Ida would try to give him just to that, because we all know someone that has breaking down, or we all ourselves break down for something, and a hug does a lot to people.
Yeah, for sure. It's like I've said before, Deku, especially if we're gonna go with the whole time, like there hasn't been a time skip. They're not second years really. Deku has only had this power for like maybe at most a year, right? And he's still a 16-year-old kid. He's still a 16-year-old kid. And one, the fact that he made a difference in all of his classmates' lives to where they're willing to go this far to get him back. But also like the pressure's going to get to him. Like that's why again that scene of in his head is just echoing your turn. It's like it's breaking him. And that the panel right after that, like Deku's facial expressions are insane. And the art in this entire chapter is great, but it's just like Deku, like Bakugo jokingly said he was drawn differently, but like you just see the stress and the wear and tear on Deku's suit and his body, and it's kind of rough to look at, honestly, because you just think back to like even this season, the Christmas episode, he straight up says, "I can't wait for us to have Christmas like this next year." And you're just sitting there like, "Oh God." Or even last week, Hawks said by the next time the cherry blossoms fall, hopefully we're all smiling again. And it's just like, why are you doing this to me, anime?
Especially if you're a manga reader, you know yes, but about that.
You know, we were all fools when we read that. Like they said that in the manga too. And it's like we were all fools just brushing that aside and looking back in hindsight, like, dang.
That
Oof.
was an
That was kind of cruel, Horikoshi.
yeah, that was cruel, and it was a typical foreshadow of what's it called? What's that type of foreshadowing called when just someone wishes something, but it don't. I've heard a term for it, Sarah. That you wish for a character wish for something, but the opposite happen or something.
Yeah. I get what you mean.
A classic example of it is just meet me at Mount Death Village and I need to talk with you about something, and then that character dies. Maybe not exactly the same, but you get my point.
Yeah, I totally do. But yeah, this chapter is great. I'm loving where we're going with this. I'm interested to see, like, do you think this is the end? Is Deku just gonna give in now, or is he gonna continue fighting in the next chapter?
Honestly, I think he's the way he looks at him and all that. Yes, I think he's done. He's just he will he truly just like I said with her panel of Nisei, this is a fight in one for all and all for one. It's just he is just so exhausted. He is even if he is more powerful than every of his class, more powerful than each of his classmates combined, even he has a breaking point mentally, and I think this is going to be it, so to speak.
Especially when we have the second user, I believe, saying if there's anything that can bolster Zuki Midoriya now, it would be those who share his resolve, those who can match his pace and keep running alongside him. Yeah, like Ida not only catching but like passing Deku as far as speed right now. Maybe that'll let him know, like, yeah, they can keep up with you, kid, a little bit.
Yeah. So that so I think if I have to guess, next chapter is going to be about them going to he just reunite with his classmates, and the rest of the class get to say what they want to say, and he just sorry guys that I yada 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 and I didn't tell you and all that jazz. He continues with the letter, so to speak, for then to the next chapter focusing on All Might a bit, I think, because I think it's the right move to not disturb this mini arc or whatever you want to call it. But after this chapter, I think it's time to check on how All Might is and all that.
It also makes sense narratively because if, like, again, Ida is basically quoting what Deku said to him during the Stain arc. We did reintroduce Stain. It'd be kind of fitting for us to go back to that next chapter.
Yeah. Exactly.
That makes perfect sense. I like what you're thinking there.
Because I don't think they are going. I wouldn't be surprised if they do brush it off for this next week and just had a side chapter of All Might and all that jazz. But if I have to guess, next week is going to be about them just reconnecting and he apologizing, and maybe Bakugo even tells him to shut up and just do. It's tell him it's that it's stupid for him to think so, because everyone understand why he kept it secret, especially if he kept the secret himself. I mean, even he felt that it was necessary to keep it secret. So he he should know indirectly why Deku did it.
I mean, again, they're all still children, even though the show that doesn't act like it sometimes. So I don't even think it's worth discussing because All Might told him to keep it secret.
Yeah.
So that all falls back on All Might anyway. You know?
Yeah, but if he is going to apologize, which we know Deku, knowing Deku, it's probably something he will probably do. I think Bakugo is just gonna tell him to shut up. I didn't something like "shut up, nerd." I didn't keep silent about this. If I didn't understood why you did it or something, I'm just talking out of the open of what I could believe happening. But I think you can see what I mean at least.
Yeah.
So it's just.
I love this chapter. The next one's gonna drop on August 9th, which is a Monday. So I don't know if we're gonna record on a Monday after we read it, but yeah, you know, that's gonna be interesting.
We are. I think we should do it with when the next manga and as in is there going? It's I think we should do it. Should do the next recording when the next anime episode comes, which is in 2 weeks.
So save it. Cool.
We are I can tell you right now that we are saving the next anime the Amateur Otaku chapter. My Hero Academia episode for when the next anime episode is, which is in 2 weeks, due to the Olympic Games and all that jazz.
So I do want to just point back to the Endeavor spinoff one shot that we had. There's a panel in there where Deku said he's designing his like stealth suit, and Deku says, "I should add a cape." And the photo that they use, I'm just like, y'all was sneaky with that one. Because Deku wants to add a cape, and he's like, "Nope, I'm not ready for a cape." And it's just like, for a shadow right there. That was some great humor that we couldn't even laugh about.
And not to mention how Bakugo's comments, "Who wears a cape for a stealth mission, moron?"
Yeah, I mean, he's got a point.
Then one of the agents, his gauntlet design is so detailed.
Yeah, that was just some random meta humor right there. Gotta love it. Yeah. So that wraps up my thoughts for this one. Got anything else?
No more than, well, just some disclosure that there won't be an episode recorded next week because the anime episode is an animation part, and we want to do anime. So we decide to wait.
Yeah, so we will be back in a couple of weeks, guys, taking a little break there until the anime returns. So we will be reviewing, assuming the manga doesn't go on break in 2 weeks, we'll be doing 2 chapters of the manga and the anime. Also keep a lookout for our review of the My Hero movie whenever we can see that in Sweden or the States. You can find me at Novice Cinephile on Twitter, YouTube, and the Novice Cinephile on Instagram. Also on Facebook, Novice Cinephile. You can find the podcast at Amateur Otaku Pod on Twitter. You can find our co-host Leo Rydell at Leo Rydell on Twitter, and Geekly Goods on YouTube. And Isaac, where can they find you, my friend?
Well, you can find me over at Emblemaniac on Twitter. You can find my work over at Wobem Entertainment, and you can find Me and our good friend Brandon hopefully is going to have 2 recordings tomorrow that is going to be interesting, to say the least.
Yeah. Also, our great friend and co-host Brandon Alvarado, you can find at the Scarlet Fan 52 on the Twitter. So hit him up there as well. We will catch you guys in a couple weeks. Go beyond. Plus Ultra.
Plus Ultra.